Okay, so what is an informal caregiver? It's basically anybody. You're not trained, you're not paid. I think the most important thing is that you're a lifeline for the person that you're taking care of. The support, the gatekeeper, decision maker, and you're also invisible, which I can imagine can be difficult at times. I've heard a bunch of stories that people will ask how the patient is, and the caregiver rarely gets asked how they're doing. So having that invisibility, I can imagine, is difficult when you're doing so much important work behind the scenes. It's an important role. I think that speaks for itself. So I think it's more important now because more people are surviving, and a lot of the care is being done at home instead of in a hospital or a facility. So that informal role, not having a doctor or the nurse, is becoming increasingly more popular. There's limited resources, which happens across the board, I think, everywhere. You have a huge influence as a caregiver, positive and negative. Again, that can definitely add to the stress of being a caregiver. Your mood can dictate their mood and vice versa. And then encouragement. You're their cheerleading section, making sure they're eating, making sure they're taking their medications, they're resting enough. I can imagine that you get a little bit of pushback with some of that, but you push through and you still help them with what they need. Problem solvers. You're part of a team, medical team, school team if you're helping someone that has young children. You take care of the medical tasks, medications. I don't know if there's any type of injections that you would have to do or changing of any kind of bandages, things that people go to med school for years and you're thrown into it to do within a day. And then day-to-day tasks, vacuuming, making meals, laundry, washing floors, changing linens, all of those things. Okay. So, factors that increase stress. Caring for a spouse, living with the person who needs care, caring for someone who needs constant care, feeling alone, feeling helpless or depressed, financial problems, a lot of hours caregiving, not enough guidance from healthcare professionals, not having a choice sometimes to be the caregiver, not having good coping or problem-solving skills, and then feeling the need to give care at all times, which is the driver for this talk. Because yes, you need to care for your loved one, but you also need to take care of you. So signs, how do you know that you have caregiver stress? There's a feeling of being burdened, or you're worrying all the time, you're tired, you might be sleeping too much or you're not sleeping enough, gaining or losing a significant amount of weight, easily irked, irritated, angry, no longer interested in things that you used to enjoy, you feel sad, having headaches or other health problems that weren't there prior. Some people start to misuse alcohol or drugs, including prescription medications. And then you're missing your own medical appointments because you're so involved in taking care of your loved one. Your stuff just doesn't seem as important, so it falls to the wayside. So, caring for yourself, the oxygen mask. That age-old cliche to put your mask on first before helping the person next to you. It applies here. You've probably heard of pouring from an empty cup. We can't pour from an empty cup. So the worst condition we're in as caregivers, we're not giving the quality care that our loved ones deserve. We're not doing something wrong. It's ineffective, I guess I'd like to say. Because if you're tired and you're running on fumes, you're not going to be in the best headspace, the best physical shape to help your loved one. So the effects on your health and well-being. So there's been reports of sleep deprivation, poor eating habits, a failure to exercise, a failure to stay in bed when you're not feeling well, postponing or failing to make medical appointments, increased risk for depression, anxiety, I forgot to put that up there, and then excessive use of substances, and then chronic illnesses have been reported, such as high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and a tendency to be overweight. Does anybody here have any questions? Okay, just jump in if you do. So, right, Angela, sounds great. Take care of me. I can't do that. Barriers. We have barriers and we have misconceptions. People tend to report feeling selfish. If I take care of myself, I'm not taking care of my loved one. I can't think about my own needs. There's a fear behind that. So identifying what is that fear? Why are you afraid to take care of yourself? Trouble asking for help. Trouble asking for what you need. Feeling the need to prove you're worthy of that person's affection. And then asking yourself, are you doing too much as a result of that? And then the last one, negative self-talk. I never do anything right. There's no way I could find the time to exercise. I don't have time to sit down and eat. If I fall asleep, I might not hear them if they need me in the middle of the night. And then the misconceptions. Responsible for my parents' health if you're taking care of a parent. If I don't do it, no one will. If I do it right, I will get the love, attention, and respect I deserve. Family always takes care of their own, and I promised my fill in the blank, I would take care of my fill in the blank. So tools to working with taking care of yourself as a caregiver. First one is reducing your personal stress. Easier said than done. So this is influenced by if your caregiving is voluntary, what your relationship is, coping abilities, the situation, and then supports. Ways to manage stress. Recognize the warning signs, which will be on the next slide. Identify sources of stress. Identify what you can and cannot change. I think we often struggle, not just in this situation, but in life in general, trying to change things that we don't have any control over. We just want that control. I want to change this. I don't like it. And then taking action, going through the motions to get what you need. So some signs of caregiver stress. Feeling burdened, these were kind of on the other slide. Worrying, feeling tired, sleeping, weight. It's everything that was on the other slide. It's important. That's why it's repeated. That's why it's in here twice. The second tool is to set goals. Take a break from caregiving. And it's okay if you think I'm crazy for saying that. It's fine. I get it. I don't take it personal. Getting help with things like bathing, preparing meals, and engage in activities that make you feel more healthy. So an example of a goal is to feel more healthy. Action steps. So oftentimes when we set a goal, it's lofty, it's a big goal, and we don't take the time to break it down into smaller digestible steps. And then when we don't achieve that goal, we can feel like a failure. So thinking it through and saying, okay, what are small things that I can do that are manageable to start reaching this goal? So making an appointment for a physical checkup, taking a half-hour break once during the week, or walking 3 times a week for 10 minutes. And those thoughts are going to creep in. Well, if I leave for 10 minutes, what's going to happen? If I take a break for a half hour and I'm not there, what's going to happen? That constant worry is going to wear and tear on you. Seeking solutions. Look at the problem, find possible solutions, select one, try it, and then evaluate it. What worked? what didn't work, and then either go back and problem solve what didn't work, or try a second solution from the list that you've made, and use other resources. Oftentimes, we'll jump from one, identifying the problem, all the way to the bottom. If nothing helps, we just give up. But it's okay. It just might not be solvable in that moment. You can always go back and revisit it later. Communicating constructively. Okay. I messages rather than you messages. So for an example, I'm really tired today, I need a break, versus you're running me ragged and I can't stand this anymore. So taking that ownership on you, it takes off that layer of blame. We're not looking to blame anybody. We're looking to state our needs and our wants. Respecting your own feelings, needs, and desires. You're just as important. Speaking out about your feelings, but being sensitive to those of others. Clear and specific on what you need or what you want. Being a good listener. And then focusing on what's happening now rather than bringing up all the stuff from the past. So 5 years ago, you didn't take out the garbage, and that doesn't matter at this point. What matters is what's going on present. So a couple of things that I've heard in the group is when a caregiver wants their loved one to eat and their loved one just can't eat, can't drink, they can't get anything down in the moment. I don't know if this is a solution. I see it as maybe another way of skirting around the issue to maybe come to a compromise. So I understand that you do not feel like drinking water right now. Blame it on the doctor. The doctor said you need to stay adequately hydrated. It's not me, it's the doctor. And then offering a small solution, just like setting our own goals. How about 3 small sips? Let's start there. How to talk to your loved one. Setting a goal from openness right from the start. Making it okay to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Everything is fair game in this situation. So having that understanding in the beginning that we could talk about it all. We could put it all out there. Because what happens if we don't put it all out there? It festers, and then it boils over. And then we have resentment, and we have anger. And that doesn't really do anybody any good ever. Letting them know that you want to be there, and you need to be included. Remind them you're on the same team, you're working towards the same goal. It might not feel like it because you're coming at it from 2 different perspectives, but you are on the same track. And then talk about the fears and the worries. I think sometimes as caregivers, we don't want to let our loved ones know that we're sad because we don't want to make them sad, and vice versa. I feel it's important that everybody knows how everybody's feeling and what their worries are, so it could just be talked through. Can it be fixed? Probably not, but just talking about it alleviates some of that stress. Good communication allows you to express yourself, helps understand your limits and your needs. Understanding the limits and needs of the person you're caring for, and then being able to talk to the medical team, the family, friends, people you don't even know. I had a client in my office last week, and her mother was diagnosed, and her mom wanted her to talk to everybody that had questions. I get it. I understand it. Wow, what a lot of pressure on her to be the one that has to relay that message. So some tools for communication. Sometimes it's hard to say it. There's other ways to communicate. You can write it, you can draw it, you can use gestures, appropriate gestures. Or if you're angry, that might be an appropriate gesture. Expressions or touch, taking your cues from your loved one. Some people are private, some people don't want to talk. If that's where they are at that moment, just meet them where they're at. You don't want to talk, when you're ready, and here. Just leaving that open that they can come to you whenever. Be realistic and flexible, and then respect the need that they want to be alone. We all need to be alone, even the caregiver. So asking, do you want to be alone? What do you need in this moment? And then sharing with them when you're overwhelmed and that you need a little alone time too. Even if it's just 10 minutes in the bathroom to have a good cry or to just sit in quiet, giving you that chance to regroup so that you can go back in a better headspace. Okay, one of, I think, the most difficult things to do, not only as a caregiver, but as a human in general, asking for and then accepting help. Considering the person that you're asking, what their special abilities and interests are. They might be an asset. They might have a skill set that you don't to make your job easier. Resist asking the same person repeatedly. I think there's a level of comfort when we find that one person that we can rely on, and we tend to make them our constant go-to. And now we're wearing them down instead of expanding that to use 3 or 4 other people that may be available. Picking the best time to make a request, preparing a list. And at the end of this, there's some apps that I found that can help you organize all of this information. And you could share it with family members and friends. Being prepared for hesitancy or for refusal. Some people might say, yeah, I want to help. And when you ask, they might be like, maybe not today. And that can be driven by a lot of things. They might be afraid to be in that person's presence. They might feel like they won't be good enough to complete what you need them to do. Avoid weakening your request. I think a lot of the times when we ask for help, we water it down. We have a hard time just putting it out there as it is. But then that's not going back, that's not being specific and clear about your communication, what you need and what you want. And then the last 2, join a support group. There's nobody better to be around than people that are sharing in a similar experience. People have different experiences. They've solved similar problems in different ways. They have different ideas. They can understand the emotions, the roller coaster. It's, to me, a support group is just like a really big, warm hug. Like, I think they're great. And then talking to a mental health provider. Granted, there are a lot of us out there. I found my purpose in specializing in oncology. So finding someone that knows a little bit more about your situation, not so much general mental health. Talking to the physician. Going in with questions ahead of time, enlisting the help of the nurse, making sure your appointment meets your needs. I have heard stories where the doctor will come in, sit for 5 minutes and walk out. And then you're like, well, whoa, what's going on? I'm sure that depends on the doctor, on their schedule. Advocate for yourself, advocate for your loved one. Make sure you're getting the time that you deserve to get your needs met for that appointment. Calling ahead, hey, is the doctor on schedule? Is he running late or is she running late? That way you may not have to sit in the waiting room for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Taking someone with you. My understanding is there's a lot of information thrown at you at appointments. So having another set of ears there with you so that everybody hears it and there's more people that can remember. And then again, being assertive, aggressive, we don't want anyone getting arrested in doctor's appointments, but assertive in using the I messages, letting that doctor or that nurse know what you need for yourself or for your loved one. Starting to exercise. Angela, when the hell am I going to find time to exercise? You will. Benefits. promotes better sleep, reduces tension and depression, increases your energy and alertness, and then reduces the psychological tension. All it takes is 15 minutes a day, 3 times a week, walking. You don't have to run a marathon. You don't have to lift 150 pounds of dead weight. 10-minute walk around the block. If you're at the hospital, around the hospital, outside of the hospital, wherever you can walk, just to get yourself going. And again, that's that alone time too. You're by yourself and you can think and process and decompress. And then the last tool is learning from our emotions. Being in tune with yourself. Actually sitting quietly and doing a scan. What am I feeling right now? Where am I feeling it? Why am I feeling it? And what does it mean? There might need to be a change in the situation. You might be grieving a loss and you just didn't realize it. You're experiencing increased stress. And with these emotions, you might just need to be more assertive and ask for what you need. You might not be getting what you need or what you want. And again, that resentment, that anger, it's a good indicator that there's something's missing. Emotions often have a reason for popping up. They're trying to tell us that they need something. And when we acknowledge them and we give them a voice, they'll tell us what they need. All right, so this one pretty quick. So summing up, learn and use stress reduction techniques, meditation, prayer, yoga, whatever fits your lifestyle. Attending to your own healthcare needs, proper rest and nutrition, regular exercise, like I said, even if it's only for 10 minutes. Taking time off without feeling guilty. Participating in pleasant, nurturing activities such as reading a book, taking a warm bath, sitting outside on a nice warm day, seeking and accepting the support of others, seek supportive counseling if and when you need it. You could talk to a counselor, a friend, a pastor, whichever, again, fits your lifestyle. Identifying and acknowledging your feelings and letting yourself know that you have a right to all of them. You are allowed to feel whatever it is you're feeling. They're all right. They're all valid. Changing the negative ways you view situations, and then setting goals. And again, a lot of these are things, if you're sitting here going, I don't know how to do that, that's where a mental health professional could come in, or a pastor, or somebody can, that's there that you can bounce whatever you need off of them. I'm not going to really go through all of these, but as with everything in our society, there's an app for that. So there's Caregiver. Is there a way to get this to everybody? Okay, cool. So Caregiver, I'm not going to read that. I'll let you guys peruse it on your own time. There's Caring Village. Lots of helping hands. MediSafe. So reminders for medications. And then there's other apps like Caring, eCare 21, First Aid to the American Red Cross, MyMeds, Prescription Saver. And then there's a list of other resources. There's actually Caring, I don't have it on here, I don't think, but Caring Bridge is another one that I've been looking into, and that seems like a really great resource. And that is all I have. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns?
I was hoping I still had it. There, in addition to apps, there are actually apps out there that, when you said take someone with you, whether maybe someone can't take someone with them, or I know that even in my own experience, sometimes you can have two people in the same room who walk away having heard opposite things. And then you're in an argument of, no, this is what the doctor said. And your caregiver is going, no, this is what the doctor said. And so there are apps. There's one in particular that you can record the doctor's appointment. And it will actually highlight, it uses some AI, and it will recognize certain keywords, it will transcribe the doctor's appointment, it'll transcribe the recording,
Wow.
and then it will highlight, and it'll trigger things where it'll be like medication, and if so, or say the doctor says the name of medication, right? Or maybe a chemotherapy.
Mhm.
If it recognizes it, it will highlight it, and then you can like tap it, and then it will give you the definition, the side effects, and all of that. I'll try and find it and give it to you. But there's a few different ones out there like that. There's also some great apps that store all of your data and personal information so that you don't necessarily have to create a binder. Like I know lots of people walk around with a big old 3-ring binder,
Mhm.
but there are apps where you can, they will actually, like you give them your details and they will go out and pull, like if you tell them I had, this doctor, this medical system, it will go out and pull all of the test results, all of the information you've ever had from that organization and compile it all together. And it's all legal.
HIPAA compliant and everything?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is. Yeah, there's one in particular, again, that I can't remember the name of. There was someone in the breast cancer community online who advocated a lot for it. And so there's a lot of opportunities out there to use technology to help bear a little bit of the burden.
Pfizer has a caregiver app also.
Oh, okay.
That we promote in our totes. I think we're still putting that Pfizer.
We are. I was not aware that it's a caregiver one. I
Oh,
thought
part of
it's
it
for,
is.
okay.
Yeah, they have a couple different different websites and couple. Those could be pretty helpful also.
Excellent. Good to know. Anything else? Any questions?
With when COVID hit, there was not a lot of help available. We were trying to get my mother-in-law had dementia, needed a lot of help.
Mhm.
My 97 at the time year-old father-in-law was taking care of her 24/7. And we would go over there frequently, but I mean, it was killing him.
Right.
And you couldn't get her into a nursing home with a lot of push. We got her into a daycare, adult daycare, but it didn't help a lot. But it helped it was a little something. I mean, basically, it only helped for a few hours just because of the way she was.
Right.
But and 2 days a week, but still, that's 4 hours for my father-in-law, you know?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, they were closing down the wings of nursing homes all over the place.
Yeah.
Because she was at home, there was no way she was going into a nursing home. I mean, my husband was calling, he had like 10 on speed dial, so to say, and he knew who the administrator, who the admissions people were, and they were very honest with him, saying, there's no way she's coming. They take first from the hospitals, and second from rehab, and you're not getting anywhere. So basically, we took her to a hospital at one point for something. We would have avoided an emergency room for, and just to get her fixed, pretty bad. And she only lived 10 days after that, but, you know, if anybody thought my 97-year-old father-in-law wasn't doing a good job, man, that should show.
No doubt. Right. Yeah. I didn't have that in the presentation, but respite care can be very useful. Finding somewhere to send, if they can, senior center or whatnot, just for a couple hours, just to give yourself a break, or even having someone come over and taking your position for a bit while you go take a break. That respite care can be significant.
And one of the challenges there can sometimes be getting the patient to agree to that. I've
Right.
seen it with grandparents. I have a client who's paralyzed, who's completely immobile, and they've talked about bringing, like in all these different cases, I've seen it where it's like, or my own grandmother was like, let's just have someone come in and help you. No one's coming in my house. I'm not having a stranger come in my house. I'm, or or I don't want to be left alone with a stranger, even if they're allowed in the house. So it's so hard because the caregiver often has to then set that boundary and say, I can't do this alone.
Right.
Or, when we have our own health stuff going on, caregivers, like you said, often ignore their own physical ailments, and if you've got someone who maybe is physically not capable of moving around much on their own, and you're picking up the physical slack, then is that putting added burden on your own health? So it's a real challenge. It's a real challenge.
When you said that, the mother wanted her daughter to call these people who she didn't even know. But sometimes when you do that, they would say, oh, if you need anything, you get their number and you say, you know what? And you don't wait till that person is really sick.
Right.
But if you could, she would like a visit once in a while. So what day is good for you? And you could just come over for half an hour and I could go grocery shopping.
Right.
And if you could get people when they're not too sick and they're not scared to death, like, oh my God, I'm sitting with this comatose person.
Right. Yeah. Her mom also didn't want anybody in the house.
Yeah.
So she's having a little bit of a problem, but I'm sure she'll figure it out somehow.
I just wanted to ask, with the presentation, when you asked if there's a way for this to get out to people. So are we still, do we still put these on YouTube or, okay.
When they record it properly.
Oh.
You've got a couple of hiccups.
So this one hopefully is, or is.
Things are going great.
Mhm. Okay.
No.
And
Actually, if you are able, Angela, to give us, like, say those couple of, I guess we have them, if we're able even just to have the couple of slides.
yeah,
Then we could even probably put that on their
Yeah,
way,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah, so we have a resource page on the website.
Okay.
And there's a caregiver section for that, so that would be perfect to share that information.
Yeah. Do you need me to resend or can you pluck it out of here?
No, so you said that you're at Brandon, so we have it.
Oh,
That's fine.
excellent.
We just pull it from there.
oh,
Good.
that's good, so.
I take it down?
Right.
We're gonna check and see if there were any questions
That's
on
fine.
Zoom or any
I
comments.
don't see any questions.
Okay,
All right.
okay. So how do people, so here's a question. When you brought up COVID, this was something that came to mind, and I know it's getting better now, but with the pandemic, the past few years, there was such a backlog of access to mental health professionals. So what is a good way for someone, like say someone has never worked with a therapist before?
Okay.
How do they go about finding that? Because there are a lot of people who that can be intimidating, right? Like, how do I even find a therapist? How do I know who's a good fit? Like, what do you recommend for someone just getting started who needs professional help to talk through things, but they don't really know how to go about it?
Okay. I typically refer people to Psychology Today.
Yeah.
And that website, you have the ability to filter by gender of the therapist, if you want like a specific religion affiliation, location, what you're looking for. So if you're looking for support with anxiety or depression, insurance, it's all listed on there. And more often than not, most therapists will schedule like a 15-minute free consultation with you. That way you can talk for a bit, they can ask any questions, the therapist has a chance to explain their approach to treatment, any kind of cost and all of that. Because it is intimidating.
Yeah.
That first phone call, I think, is the most important step. Going back to like that reaching out for help, just identifying I need to talk to someone and then finding and making the phone call. It can be a little disheartening though, because a lot of therapists are full. They're not taking new clients. So it might take you 3, 4, 5, if not more phone calls sometimes. But I think on Psychology Today too, you can email as well. So sometimes they can get back to you and let you know I'm not accepting clients, or it should say on their website.
Yeah.
But I think Psychology Today is probably the best resource.
Yeah, that's a great resource. I use it, and give it to people, give it to clients a
We
lot.
went to our primary ones and he was great. I mean, he recommended someone.
Mhm. Yeah, a lot of the primary doctors will have a list as well too. Or I don't know if you guys have a list or if other agencies have lists that you can call. I know like Camp Good Days has a specific list that they've put together
Mhm.
of therapists and social workers that they've personally worked with or talked to.
That's great.
Yeah.
So your support group is strictly caregivers, right?
Yes.
You have a group for that?
Yep,
So
it's-
how's that going? How are you getting?
The first one, we had one gentleman who was actually a patient, not a caregiver. But he had some concerns about his ex-wife. So we sat, Melissa and I sat and chatted with him. We are scheduled to have our next one again next Tuesday from 6 to 7 at the outpatient rehab at DeGraff. I think on the flyer, if people have access to it, it has Melissa's email to register, just to let her know, like a heads up that you'll be there. The only thing that we don't offer at the moment, it's only in person. There's no Zoom capability. That is definitely something that I can look into with her. I don't know if where we're having it at DeGraff has the setup to do that. So, or how I would set something up to do that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking for all, for all the people that are caregivers in the area. I mean, there's just such a huge population of that. And so it's such a, it's certainly a challenging role to play. And like you stated, there's no education for that. It's kind of like all of a sudden you're doing it.
Right.
And you don't know what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah, so there's gotta be any kind of relief or help or education or support for that would be so important.
Yeah, and it's just getting started, so it's got the capacity to
Yeah,
grow into
exactly.
whatever people need it to do.
Yeah, we'll definitely, push that. I think we have the flyer here. I think we have it on the
That'd be a
table.
great thing to add to the token.
It's in the totes.
It is in the
It's in the
token. See, there you go.
Okay.
Excellent.
Well, that's the thing, I told you about the toads newly diagnosed. Well, for every newly diagnosed person, there's a set of caregivers,
There's a
right?
newly diagnosed caregiver,
Exactly
yeah,
right.
or a newly
So-
assigned
And they don't know
caregiver.
what they're doing, so any information that we could supply for them would be helpful.
Right.
I think it's been my experience, like being a part of this organization, that a lot of people are so resistant to support groups,
Mhm.
And I first got interested in this organization, came to a presentation and then stayed for the support group meeting, which now nobody stays for anymore. But that was really helpful to me. But so many times when we give out a tote, somebody will say, oh, well, I don't want to go to a support group. I don't want to talk around other people. And so I think seeing a presentation like this on Zoom for people who aren't here can be really helpful to them. And I don't know, how do you get past, are you aware of the fact that there are people who just don't want to talk around a group of other people?
Definitely.
How do you overcome that?
Well, there's nothing saying that you have to talk at the group. You can just come and listen.
Mhm.
I have a few women in the breast cancer survivor group that just sit and listen.
Mhm.
They don't share a whole lot. And to me, that's okay. Like, there's nothing forcing you to talk. Because it can be uncomfortable, it can be intimidating.
It was actually the same thing. I went to a presentation, I think it was before I knew about Breast Cancer Network, that Sisters Hospital was putting on about something. And then I learned about their support group. And I went several times and also didn't say a thing. But you learn a lot. So at least if people can come and listen.
And the flip side that's interesting to that is I find there's definitely people I think who don't want to talk and share, but I encounter a lot of people who don't want to listen. They don't want, they're dealing with their own problems, and the last thing they want to do is go and have to experience other people's.
Yes.
I've seen it with grief, like my mother-in-law, and my
Oh.
mother, like, as a widows,
Mhm.
they're like, they went a couple times, and it's like, I do not need to sit here and listen to everybody rehash
Mhm.
what I'm going through, right? And then the
Right.
same with breast cancer. I've,
Yeah.
especially mixed groups, because I think there can be a lot of fear. If you have like say people who are living with metastatic as well as earlier stage or primary diagnoses, it's that like I can't even think about that. I can't even put myself in what if that would be me. So it's a challenge because
Yeah.
you get both sides of the coin.
Right.
And I think when you said they make you feel like they're basically like a warm hug, I think there is that opportunity, but there's also a lot of personal. That's something as an organization we've been trying to figure out is how do we best serve people in maybe in some non-traditional ways, right? If like we want to have the support groups, but then also how do you accommodate for those people who aren't? That's why we kind of do stuff like this, because this in and of itself, being here together can be supportive, right?
Yeah.
Just being in community, even if we're not all sitting around telling our stories. So.
And I think people too feel that the fear that they might get emotional if they share, which in front of people can be very uncomfortable. So there's a level of vulnerability to a support group.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
Well, hopefully a lot of people will see this, or at least reach out, or rather research our caregiving tab to get more information.
and I don't just do groups. Like if someone's like, I want to talk, but I don't want to be in a group, I do individual therapy as well, And maybe sometimes that gets it rolling. When you talk to someone one-on-one and you get some stuff out, then it becomes a little bit more comfortable to try the group.
Mhm.
Yeah, I found out about this group when I lived in Virginia and went to a doctor, and there was a sign up about the restorative health classes. I told Nancy because I couldn't go, and she started going. Then when I started Tai Chi, but she was in Fredonia, I wasn't going.
Yeah.
But when I moved here,
You saw the sign for Donnie?
no, I saw the sign. No, it was at Dr. Sonny Paul's.
Oh.
On
Oh,
a bulletin.
Yeah, right.
When you're waiting for them to come in and you're reading everything. And I wrote it down and told Nancy. And I said, I'll try Tai Chi.
And you've been doing it ever since. Maybe you teach it.
No.
well, that's what I think, like with when Melissa, for those of us that are on the board, first told us about your starting the support group. It's like right away you think, well, how can we get the word out? And we've tried a lot of ways, and as we do with our own stuff, trying to get the word out. So there's so much out there.
Well, this was great. Thank you
Yes.
so
Oh,
much.
thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Of course.
I think it's such, as we were talking before, and like, it's so applicable to so many, like, take the word cancer out of the equation and insert X, Y, Z, like, it's so applicable.
I've had a lot of questions for like Alzheimer's,
Sure.
Yeah.
caregivers of Alzheimer's.
I took care of my husband who had fixed disease, but it's similar. And I was like,
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, it's not even necessarily physical caregiving, right? It's really
Right.
like,
Oh, definitely.
you become your person, whoever in your family's primary kind of source of support,
Right.
the one they lean on, the one they turn to, and then it's,
Yep.
yeah,
And now you're playing therapist.
exactly, yes. Yeah,
You
this
really
was
have to
great,
have one,
thank
because
you,
I have to
Angela.
Okay, I will have one.
All
If
right.
I
Do I need to say anything to sign off, or just logging out? All right.